What a maneuver!
This is 28th place Brandon Jones on Water Asui. A known menace for most of the game's history, and in recent metas has seemed a little flimsy, a little frail, right? A lot of decks have been able to overcome her defensive tricks. They have answers for like sticky balls, card pull clogging, and breakers, and you know, she doesn't have anywhere near the stats that other decks have had, so you know, it'll be pretty interesting. I think the biggest thing is because of her dominance and because of like how good these symbols have been and like how unfair their attack lineups have sort of been. Like if she said ranged or charged instead of kick attack, like her air decks could be amazing. But it was pretty interesting to see this character kind of fall off. But when she pops off, she still looks pretty unfair. So it's one of those things where you have like really unfair turns and like really just underwhelming turns, and they're supposed to balance out, but it doesn't feel that way when you're losing. But let's take a look at the list. We've got main board recovery time because blocking is very hard right now, and then main board plus ultra probably for the same reasons, but also to potentially land a huge kill. Not a lot of people are prepared for plus ultra right now, so this could have been sneaky on offense. But we do see the 4 tape already, so this is like 4 plus ultra Asui is like a phrase I've heard over the weekend, like something people were afraid of, but I don't imagine the other Asuis were maining the 4, and we don't see 4 on this deck list total. So these are 2 actions that are basically saying blocking is so hard to do right now, but we still want to stay alive. So that's pretty cool. 1 of Cannon Blast because you can just tap a Schmillion Foundations. Very good ender card. Very good when your opponent is like exhausted from your long strings. You know, just a stat. It's a stat battery. So 4 Ice Wall because it's got the breaker and it's got the stun we need to push all of our medium looking attacks. Because again, we don't have like the massive stats that the Chaos Symbol attacks get. We don't have the massive stats that like a Tokoyami or a Jiro or an Ojiro, which is really annoying to say those back to back, but you know, like the air charge lineups and those earth Ojiro decks, you know, just put numbers everywhere. And so +2 speed has started to look a little worse and worse. So having that extra stun makes sense. 4 Heat Wave because we like Pot of Greed. 3 Freezer Burn. This is a really nice control piece, and it is filling up your discard pile. It's readying foundations. It's more of unfair Asui stuff, but it might be a little understated for this meta game. You know, we didn't see Andrew Holder running it in Tokoyami, so might be a little understated. And then Tongue Smack is a cantrip, punches a little bit above its weight. You know, being 6 damage is a little bit better than all of these, right? A lot of these don't pump themselves. Heat Wave has to get lucky. And then 4 Ice Storm, it's a staple defensive piece. It is a staple finishing blow, right? It's a staple finishing attack and a staple defensive piece. So probably going to see this like minimum 2 of, 4 of very often. Next up we have 4 Prone to Dry Eyes, which is how Asui turns chaff cards in her hand into entire attacks worth of damage. It's super fucking annoying actually to deal with. Defensively, it's stun hate. So this is a card that brought people back to Water in a big way. This is a card that makes people really consider playing Asui. And once this gets rolling, it's very unfair when Asui has like +5 damage to like her 5th attack. So yeah, this stuff gets stacking pretty big pretty fast in her. And then Rescue completed, it's her foundation. What can you say about Rescue completed? Dominated all of set 2 format. It made her so good in set 1, and it makes playing a 1 of Cannon Blast really easy to do. Then we have Exhausted Exclamation. This is also her foundation. Someone accidentally put Eraserhead on this art. I don't know why. This is just an Asui card. This is Asui passing the torch. This is like, this is frogging the torch, you know? Yeah, you're going to be committed. You're going to draw cards, and that's going to fuel Prone to Dry Eyes, and that's going to fuel your 10, 11, 12 attack turns. So definitely a 4-up staple in this deck. 2 first villain encounter, giving us some deadlock threat. And this is like a card we saw waver back and forth. Like, I don't know, I do know, I don't know. I think it ends up at least as a 1-of, main-boarded. 2-up seems right. Gotta have some kind of deadlock threat in this format just because the veterans out there are not going to be afraid of deadlock until you make them afraid. Because if you don't have it on board, that first turn that they go into deadlock, you know, that's the only really like super risky turn. And then as long as they play quality foundations after that, they get to continue building that lead and building that wall up, and it's going to take multiple deadlock effects after that. So if you don't have deadlock out early, if you don't have deadlock out before that 10 foundation threshold, you're probably not going to get to make a huge dent into it depending on the deadlock effect. So I think that this definitely has come back in style and for very good reason. 3 Wall Cling main board, my man. I love this card. I'm so depressed when people are not maining at least one of this card. Asui is very fragile right now. Like, yes, she blocks super good, but blocking, as we saw with Eraserhead decks, is not all it's cracked up to be. This, in my opinion, is the foundation that makes Asui better than Eraserhead. This, in my opinion, is the foundation that makes Asui a better deck than Eraserhead decks, and it's simply because your block zones become much more forgiving. Besides that, like, you know, obviously throw hate, electric jolt hate, pretty soon it's gonna be a muscle rush hate. Like, there's just quite a few tech pieces, quite a few like technical attacks that like care about dealing damage rather than how much they deal, and this is a good way to mess with that. So I love this card. I think it's a simple effect. It's a like evergreen, very nice effect. It's very interactable with. You can commit it, you can flip it, you can seal it very easily in this format. So it's not like a busted card, but it's one of my favorites, and I think it is often overlooked because of its forecheck and because of how many things snipe foundations. It doesn't feel worth it to run, but I'm a fan. 2 of Irrefutable main, 2-sided. That's the classic. That's, you know, the ratios you're used to. 3 of Frozen. We haven't seen this yet. The Chaos decks were running Feeling Cute instead of this, so I'm curious if this was ever very useful. This card has been falling out of favor because of Earth Kirishima decks mostly, but now that Kirishima was not a threat, this could have been really good. We only have like the 1 stun attack, so stunning our opponent out in tandem with Frozen is pretty nice. I don't think it would be useless too often. But no Feeling Cute, so like choosing the Frozen over the Feeling Cute 100%. Struggling with Studies, anti-flip, picks up a block. It's kind of weird in an Asui world. Like, if you block with a non-ranged attack, you know, this is something that clears it as well. So good anti-clog, good flip protection for a character that like has some really potent defensive pieces that they need, like rescue completed, you know. And then like protecting Prone to Dry Eyes is really big. Ice Gliding is a super good card, like just tons of speed reduction, but it might end up actually being a little redundant, you know. This is a card I kind of waffle on these days, and Asui needs something else other than speed hate at this point in the game, I think. Yeah, she used to be like super mega unfair with her speed hate, but now speed hate's kind of everywhere except the Earth symbol, or at least it's like available to a lot of decks, and they just don't care because there's not enough speed hate to get you to survive all of the stun, in all of the one with nature bonuses. I don't know what I'd replace it with. Like, looking at our block zones, I guess we could replace it with like feeling cute, like I was talking about. But yeah, this is a nice card. It's just we're good at blocking. We're really good at blocking. That we need something else. Just tons of speed hate though. Tape is super solid because it lets us completely block with ice storms and tongue smacks. And the one of Cannon Blast, it lets us completely block with plus ultra and recovery time if we have to. Like, recovery time, block breaker 1, pick it up with struggling with studies. Once you're to the point where you can't block anymore, that's a really, really solid defensive combination. It's very difficult to pull off in 7-handers, and it's much better in 6-handers though. So your mileage may vary, but 4 of tape is just a super nice meta call. It's really good at hating on the speed of like double jab pummels and twisting Azure Infernos, you know, so it has like that speed hate as well, like, you know, it has a speed hate use as well, so lots of speed hate in this deck, but mostly we're just trying to change the zone to put plus ultra on unblockable stuff. And then basic training, because it's the most registered card in the game at this point. Its symbols are just relevant. It's a 0 diff. It's free. It's just a free card you put in every deck. And then surviving the final is very similar. I think this also ends up as like a 2, 3, 4 of jammed into every deck just because it counts as 2 foundations on defense, and that's really cool. And then Gotcha is a little more stun hate, a little more low block action. Works pretty good. We don't have Think Fast, and I mentioned on commentary I used to play Asui1 with Think Fast because sometimes clearing my card pool wasn't really gonna work. Sometimes it's not really what I needed at that stage in the game. Sometimes I have just extra foundations to ready all the time, so I had really liked using Think Fast to basically become Sero. Like, I could flip a foundation, like I can commit Asui and then flip a foundation to just change the zone of my attacks and stuff, and then Gotcha would work with that really well too, right? So this is a neat little card. We're just heavy on like these are always useful when we need them, right? Like, we play an attack, we can put the 1 on it. They play an attack, we can do the -1. So Gotcha's just not quite as good as surviving the final in general. But we wanted some more low blocks because 1.3 million is a fucker's card. Moving on to, let's start with the actions, or moving on to the sideboard, sorry. Moving on to the sideboard, we have the 2 Irrefutable, which is correct. 4 Faith Shield in the side. This is where, you see, you had me with the Wall Cling, but you lost me with the Faith Shield, and it's tough because for a while it was the opposite. We were maining Faith Shields and siding Wall Clings because we'd always be blocking with Faith Shield to just hate on everything. But now you can't do that. Now a +3 block mod is too much. It's very difficult to block with, but if we look at our attacks, like, they're all like +2 block mods as well. So yeah, I'm not super sure on I'm not sure. I don't know what the right call on this one is, and I'm not sure. I feel like I have at least one mained right now, guys. I feel like Face Shield deserves at least one main board slot because of the hating on combos and counting things in the card pool and even potential recursion, right? So yeah, this one tripped me up. I was very surprised to see this all on the side, but when it comes to having cards like Wall Cling, when it comes to having cards like Face Shield, it's really tough to decide between the two, and like, your opponent's probably going to assume that they have to play around this. So that's fine. But as far as having like a 4-check to counter cards like Electric Jolt and throws and stuff like that, Face Shield is like the hand trap version, and Wall Cling's more interactable. But it's not the wrong choice, you know? It's not like you know, pound for pound, I don't think one is strictly better than the other in the format we're in. Just because you're not going to get to block with this +3 very often. And then if your opponent's playing cards like Freezer Burn, right? Like, you know, they just get to cancel both these anyway. So I don't think it mattered too much, you know, especially for day 2. I assume there wasn't a game where he was like, wow, I really wish I just had a face shield instead. So, you know, maybe if you didn't draw the wall cling, I guess you'd want to have the face shield. Then 2 more recovery time just in case there was some nasty, stupid discard deck. But then, of course, the defensive response to gain life because blocking is very hard. So that makes sense. That, you know, I like this card a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense in this meta. Surprise Chaos decks aren't jamming anymore. If I had like 2 of these, or I had 1 or 2 of these sided for Tokoyami, just in case people petty squabbled me, right? Like if you see, like we're expecting Tokoyamis with petty squabbles a lot, and this card is really good against that. You get to discard it in another card and draw like 4 cards. That's fucking cool. And then So Manly just, it messes up combo decks really. I think the biggest issue with So Manly is it says unblocked attack. You can't afford to take an unblocked attack as a 7-hander right now. It's not happening. It's so rare. Like, it's so rare that you get to choose this avenue of defense. So, not a bad card at all, though. Super good against so much stuff. So, yeah, I think this is a very solid list. It's very much a lot of the same, right? Like one thing to talk about with So Manly is that's the top card rival's discard pile to their card pool, so it's not like the best combo hate, but it works a lot. It works pretty low, like 99% of the time. Other than that, man, I still think Asui is super good. It's just she has to work a little harder, I guess, than other decks, or she just has to draw like more volume. But she has the kind of inevitable turns that tournament players really want. She has the kind of like inevitable, overwhelming, mostly uninteractable kind of turns that you really want to have, but it turns out for this tournament specifically, you needed 0 levels of uninteractable. So, really cool to see Brandon Jones qualify. He didn't play very often throughout the years, or throughout this year, I should say. I think I only saw him register for like the Vegas RLE and like 2 online ones, and then he made it to top 8. You know, he made a deep run at online nats. I think he actually ended up top 4 online nat. But he is a former champion of our game. He is on Fiddlesticks, so you know, massive shout out to Brandon Jones, Vegas local. Love to see him there. Wish he could have gone a bit further, but that's Brandon. He's a team's national champ from 2017, so hopefully we'll see a lot more of him at the next HLC and in this competitive season. But you guys tell me, what do you think about this Asui deck? What needs to change? What are we missing? What's the tech piece? What does Asui need to push herself back to the forefront of this format?